Hi, everybody. It's Monday. How y'all doing? I'm Mr. Moohead, your big and furry host on Moohead Radio. Joining me on the panel, Tony the Calf and Mr. Beef Wellington himself. Royalty, huh? Though an interesting weekend of football. No question about that. It's overshadowed by some other things, but some of the games were mystifying, and going for 2-point conversions instead of extra points for no possible cause or reason. Playing press man to man with 20 seconds left on the clock when the team has no timeouts and allows him to complete a bomb with nobody behind the safety or in front of the safety to stop it. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be talked about. There's one thing that, and it's not just one thing, it's just a series of things that just irritates the hell out of me. And misinformation is the hallmark of Twitter and social media. And I happen to agree with Baker Mayfield on this, that it is toxic. I believe misinformation runs rampantly. Opinions are opinions, and I get that. And everybody's got an opinion. But if you're going to express an opinion, have some basis for it, because I'm getting the impression that people are posting things to get attention. Like it worked for the Kardashian family. This is what all of social media has become. Look at me, I'm Sandra D. I want attention. So I'm going to post the most ridiculous, ludicrous, argumentative, mean-spirited, cruel stuff to see how many responses I can get. So I've taken some of the things and just decided to gun these people down once and for all. There is no sound explanation that people are bringing up about why you would draft a guy number one a number of years ago and get rid of him and we'll start with Ryan Tannehill. What would the point be if you just are posting something and saying, what we want is a guy who's going to be 34 years old, who is horrible in the postseason when he's appeared, 5 games, 7 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and he doesn't win. And that he was a quarterback for a marginal Miami team and what has turned out to be a really marginal Tennessee team. And I'm going to use the of what I consider to be foolishness about the anti-Baker people, why we should be looking at the Garoppolos and why we should be looking at the Tannehills, because Baker Mayfield's not our guy. And I'm going to use their logic. This is what they throw at you. Well, he leads all quarterbacks in balls batted down. You hear that one before, guys?
Yeah.
He didn't even lead the league this year in balls batted down.
Right. But what I'm saying is, this is something that you hear, and there's a series of things, and it's very much the way everything political has gone in the country has just spilled over into social media. They repeat something so many times that their lies are substituted, and they're substituting the truth with lies. The other thing they would tell you is Baker Mayfield can't come back from behind. And especially on final end of game possessions, he just can't get it done. That's another one. You heard that one before?
Nope.
All right. Now, those are, and he holds on to the ball too long. You heard that one before. And he doesn't see open receivers downfield. Those are the 4 reasons. And the rest of it is that they don't like him. That's the 5th one. All right. We could go on about why people don't like him, that he's got a brash attitude, that he beat Ohio State and planted his flag on the mid 50-yard line. But there, all kinds of things. But I'm going to stay away from that because I can't say with any certainty why people would hate a person like this, except that they want attention on social media. So I'm going to take the other so-called explanations and say, okay, let's look at the concept of their big one. He can't pull the fat out of the fire. 4th quarter comebacks and game-winning drives. Okay, I have them right up here. So the fact of the matter is, it really pisses me off when people lie about stuff. And this is just a flat out lie. All right. He has 6 4th quarter comebacks and 7 game winning drives in his 4 years in Cleveland. Is that a huge number? No. Is it a tiny number? No. Let me explain. If I go to Lamar Jackson and look at the same statistic, there is a very similar thing. 6 comebacks, 8 game-winning drives. We'll talk about it why in a minute. If I did the same thing and went to Jimmy Garoppolo, he has, in a longer career, spanning from 2014 to the present, 8 years, 8 comeback wins and 10 game-winning drives. The next one I can tell you is Josh Allen, who in the same 4 years that Baker Mayfield had, 6 and 7, he has 8 comebacks and 11 game-winning drives. Okay? Patrick Mahomes. He's considered to be the gold standard, especially now, after what we saw this weekend. And same thing with Josh Allen. They both are. He's been in the league really as a starter for 4 years. He was in the league a 5th year. And he has 9 comebacks and 10 game-winning drives. Talking about a meaningless fucking statistic. And that's what liars who want attention do. You know why that's a bogus statistic? Because good teams don't trail, you stupid cocksuckers. Get the wax out of your ears and your brains. Jesus Christ. A good team doesn't have to come back and win in the 4th quarter. They're already ahead.
Yeah, they're the team trying to maintain the lead.
I mean, it's really annoying. And then I go to the next step. And I want to find this because this is the absolute proof. We want Ryan Tannehill. We would take Tannehill instead of Baker Mayfield. Have you seen that on the internet, on Twitter?
Thank God, no.
Yeah, but it is. It's all over the place.
I would have had to actively destroy those people.
Wow. What I'm doing is I'm burying them as dead and buried. All right? Here's his career of 9 years. How many comebacks and how many game-winning drives for Ryan Tannehill?
Since Derrick Henry's been on the team, I would say there's probably 9 or 10.
All right. What do you think, Tony?
4.
All right. 25 comebacks and 26 game-winning drives.
Wow.
Oh, fuck,
Now,
we're way off.
that's right. But it doesn't mean anything, 7 and
Yeah,
9,
because he
8
can
and
just
8,
hand it
8
to
and
Derrick
8.
Henry. He can just hand it to Derrick Henry, who can run 78 yards and finish a goddamn game.
He's playing for teams who are behind all the time. A comeback can only happen if you're behind. This is what irritates me about people who hone in on insignificant statistics. And, you know, the balls being batted down are another one. All right? I wanted to look at Baker Mayfield's numbers that way. And in his first year, 2018, they didn't really keep track of the stat. This is considered an advanced stat, and they really haven't messed with it until 2019. He had 20 batted passes in 2019. But of course, we didn't have an offense in 2019 either, as I recall. In 2020, he had 8. In 2021, he had 11. Okay? So that's his number of bat downs. You're wondering about the other people? Well, Lamar Jackson, 12, 6, and 9. Okay? I'm just giving you numbers. Joe Burrow, 4 and then 8. And finally, who do I have here in my Josh Allen? Batted passes 10, 4, and yes, this year 16. The guy who's tallest, who's biggest, Baker's too small, 16 batted balls. But they don't tell you that. You know why? Because Buffalo wasn't behind all the time. That's why he doesn't have all those comeback wins. He's got a great football team, and he's a good quarterback.
And
It
has a
really
system
becomes
built around him.
Yeah. And you know, I'm going to bring Derek into the fray here. But so immediately, right off the bat, those explanations about batted balls and those about comebacks are bogus. And if that's the reason that you want to get rid of a guy that you drafted number 1 after he's had a difficult 2021, after he had a good 2020, then you know nothing about football. I have absolutely wanted to have nothing to do with those people. They're just agitators who are just trying to scream for attention.
I have no problem if people want to make arguments for specific players, but I agree. When I saw the Ryan Tannehill thing, I mean, that was laughable. And I mean, you know that I've said I believe they should look into options just to see, at the very least, do your due diligence to look around. But the idea of a guy who failed in Miami, goes to Tennessee, and has one of, some people think, the best running back in the NFL, it's like, what do you see in Ryan Tannehill that Baker can't do? Because my problem with Baker is not that he can't get it done. I mean, we know he can play good. My only problem is consistency. So when you have to weigh the options, are you telling me that you would rather have a guy in Ryan Tannehill who is not reliable at all? I mean, you would have to essentially hand the ball off 24/7, short routes. To me, Ryan Tannehill is just a little bit better Case Keenum. Like
Right.
that whole argument. And Jimmy
He's a game
Garoppolo.
manager.
And as far as Jimmy Garoppolo, I think it's a better argument than Tannehill, but also he's been a terrible cold weather quarterback. You got to realize who you're talking about to play where. Like
Good
some
point.
guys just can't play in the cold. Like you're going to bring a guy from San Fran who's solid, you know, he's decent, he can't stay healthy, but you're going to bring him to Cleveland and you're telling me you're happy with him in the playoffs?
You're not going to get there. See, the problem is what people don't want to accept is that, and I'll say it again now that you've seen it. Of course, though the people I'm denigrating right now, they don't care about the truth because they only care about getting attention for them. But the truth is that We saw the AFC finals already. Okay? I know it. Derek, you know it. Brian, you know it. Tony, you know it.
I think we saw the Super Bowl. I don't necessarily just.
I won't go that far, but I'll say it's so obvious head and shoulders that those two teams, that Buffalo and Kansas City are by far so much further advanced than the other teams in the AFC. It's not close. It's not
I just
close.
hate the fact that we have to sit there and watch Kansas City or Cincinnati make the Super Bowl. I just hate that.
Well, yeah. I mean, they're
what? We get an Ohio kid playing for an Ohio team.
Yeah, I still don't want him to win the Super Bowl.
It's time to put that bullshit aside and say, you know what? Good for Ohio to have somebody else fucking win a goddamn Super Bowl besides Rapelessburger. Yeah,
I mean,
a
I'm
guy
happy
who
for
fucking
Joe
rapes
Burrow.
women in a bathroom is the fucking guy who actually got it done from our state. Like, fuck
You
that.
could be happy for somebody and still not want them. They're still a rival. Like, they may not be as big of a rival.
He is going to
as
be a rival,
Pittsburgh.
but it's not going to be a rivalry for too much goddamn longer because once Mayfield goes, so goes the winning streak against the Bengals.
Yeah, I mean, again, everybody elevates based on the W or the L, but the W's and L's in these other games, really, and even in the Kansas City game, is a flip of a coin. And one in the Kansas City game, literally.
Yeah.
I mean, literally a flip of the coin. I mean, you put the ball in Patrick Mahomes in that offense, and they're going to score the first time they get it. They've been there. They've done it 4 times in a row. They've been there, Instead, you know what I'm reading? Same old Buffalo, same old Bills. And they just continue to do this malarkey that's like, something? There's and there's better. If you want to know the truth, any team that gives up 42 or 36 points can't expect to win. It was just the sheer ferocity of scoring at the end of the game left the defenses irrelevant and showed that both quarterbacks had the character to carry their team. And it literally came down, 13 seconds?
Yep.
I mean, your defense can't give up 45 yards in 13 seconds. But so it goes.
What do you think about the overtime rules? Because that's been a big discussion today.
You know something? I think that this will eventually change, but, you end up extending games and players will be physically exhausted. And, there does come a point where you put your foot down and you got to win. And, you can say, okay, well, if they score a touchdown, the other team gets a chance. You can do it like they do in college football. You can put it on a specific yard line and just make it like a goddamn hockey shootout. But I really don't like that. I think that if you can't summon a defensive stop at that point in the game, you don't deserve to win. If you give up 45 yards in 13 seconds, you don't deserve to win. I mean, and it isn't the rule. It's just the way the game plays out. Sometimes good is a little bit better than good. There wasn't much to separate them. Both quarterbacks did exactly what they were supposed to do. And the defenses were flummoxed by it all. So, I mean, but again, you're looking at two teams that are head and shoulders above the Browns, the Bengals, the Ravens. They're just better. The Titans, they're better.
And you really saw the speed come out towards the end of that game.
Oh, hell yes.
Just unbelievable.
Yep.
Mecole Hardman, Tyreek Hill, just it's like they get the ball in their hands and it's like, well, good luck.
Well, you know what's amazing is how they can deke somebody and get up to full speed so quick.
Yeah.
I mean, they make somebody, if God forbid one person misses and there's just this much space, whoa, I mean, just like turbocharged.
Well, and with Allen's size, he can run over defensive backs, which we
I
saw him
mean,
do.
so these people are above the rest. And I know they don't give medals to Buffalo because Buffalo has the Scotty Norwood tradition, has the Jim Kelly tradition. They just don't get it done. It wasn't their fault. They played the same kind of game. It wasn't a choke.
No.
They did what they normally do. They scored 36 points, for Christ's sake. But we've seen the Chiefs when they're on. And they may not be next game. I don't know. But what I do know is when it's clicking, you're fucked.
It's almost like the regular season for them is kind of a testing time for the playoffs. Like you see them try out all these kind of crazy different schematic things, and sometimes it doesn't work, sometimes it does, and then it's like they get to the playoffs and it's like they just throw it all together and it just all comes out at once, repeatedly, over and over. We've seen it.
And, you know, the other thing I want to point out is this frenzy on Twitter, and everybody knows my political leanings, all right? So you would know that Aaron Rodgers wouldn't be my favorite guy, but not just for that. I think he's here at the end of his career, he just can't keep his mouth shut. But be that as it may, I'm not going to criticize him as a player, but you don't want him in Cleveland for any reason. He's 38 years old. He won one Super Bowl. One. It's been 10 years. Wake up! The guy doesn't win. One.
And he's not coming anyway.
No, of course
that whole
not.
thing is just ridiculous.
Yeah. But I mean, the bottom line is, again, it's a bunch of people looking for attention. And you know what bothers me is that they're following the lead of people like Jameel Hill. And oh yes, I don't like that side either. She has she worked for ESPN. She's supposed to be a sports reporter. And her comment is Aaron Rodgers just got his ass canceled by the 49ers. I'm sick of the politics. I got a good idea for some homework for Jameel Hill. Why don't you go to work, go to the Baseball Hall of Fame in Coopersville or Cooperstown. Go there and stand there and look at the bust of Ty Cobb and what he said about your people, Jameel. And why don't you start up some shit about that? Fuck you. The fact that Aaron Rodgers didn't win has nothing to do, but this is what we've done. We go pro-anti. You're like pro-vax, anti-vax. You know, you're Democrat, you're Republican. You know, you're anti-mandate, you're pro-mandate. We've done this with everything. We've segmented everything we can segment in society to express our radical differences.
And if you have a middle ground, regardless of what it is, you get thrown either way. So you're not even, you can have a middle ground, but nobody's going to take it like that. So regardless of whatever you say, it'll be misconstrued.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you got a vaccine, then the anti-vaxxers are going to hate you, and vice versa. That is what it is. But, you know, Green Bay, they played a bad game. Their special teams let them down. Aaron Rodgers didn't come through. He was 8-0.
9 fantasy points, baby. Yeah.
8-0.
That's championship
There you go,
caliber.
Brian.
8-0.
Well, I picked him in
Players
fantasy. I picked all of the fucking pukers in fantasy, by the way. Because
that
I
on
wanted
purpose?
the Antichrist to go down. And I knew my pocket dimension of hell would reach out and swat those motherfuckers like a big fucking fly swatter.
Well,
Start
you know,
picking the Steelers, will you?
Say what?
I said start picking the Steelers then. Pick some
Yeah.
Steelers, pick some Ravens, pick a
Well,
couple
the one year I
Bengals.
had Heinz Ward, and he ended up getting like fucking almost the second highest points that season.
Well, so Green Bay losing, yeah, Aaron Rodgers played a bad game. Had nothing to do with his political stances. He played a bad game. The team just didn't get it done. And Aaron Rodgers missed a wide open Lazard, wide open in the middle of the field, and chucked it long instead into double coverage. And that was at a pivotal moment of the game when they needed, that would have easily gotten 25 to 30 yards. And he
he's
just
become
missed
a
it.
pretty good player too, that Alan Lazard.
Yeah. I mean, and he just didn't see him, which is what they say about Baker Mayfield. But something, you can point out virtually any play. The quarterback has X amount of time to get it done, and they pull the trigger. And Aaron Rodgers has pulled a lot of triggers in his life, and quite honestly, I don't give a shit what I think of him politically. The guy's been a really a fantastic quarterback.
The regular season king.
Yeah, but you see, you can say the same thing for Dan Marino. There's lots of them, Jim Kelly, but they deserve respect. And can't we separate people from their accomplishments? Can't we do it?
But in Jim Kelly's case, he won 4 straight AFC championship games to get to the Super Bowl. They lost those Super Bowl games, but they at least got to that dance. So,
well, and the Packers have gotten
not
multiple
exactly the
NFC
same thing.
champs.
And by 5 games for Ryan Tannehill, running for his life 18 times for 53 yards, a 2.9 yard average, 1 touchdown, 1.
Oh, and just a sidetrack, Bronk reminded me with the Black Cow of Death thing. Rip to Dan Wilson from the Ventures.
Oh,
At the
really?
age of 88.
So it was Riptide. Wow. So at any rate, yeah. So the total, that's running the ball. Tannehill, 7 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. All right. The other thing they'll tell you is that Baker Mayfield holds on to the ball too long. Well, and he got sacked 9 times. So did Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is not a hero in winning that game. He got by the hair of his chinny chin chin. And I'll tell you something about Joe Burrow, very talented young quarterback. He ain't going to stay in the league long enough if he keeps getting hammered like that. I thought, seriously, the one where the guy rushed the quarterback and hit him from behind, actually, I thought his knee had gone out again. I really thought that it was going to happen right then and there. There's a lot of danger, and we're going to add Bob to the group. How you doing, buddy? The fact is that crushed. He's brave. There ain't no doubt about that. So's Baker. They both take a licking and keep on ticking. But he's the flavor of the year, like Baker was last year. He's chocolate ripple swirl. Okay? He's the flavor of this year. Is there anything that tells me that the Bengals couldn't turn around and be 8-9 next year, just like the Browns? And the answer is they got Mike Brown as an owner, and he's never been able to take them beyond much of anything. He's found a way, that front office has, of fucking things up. I say, if they're going to become a great football team, God bless them. I want the Browns to become a great football team. The Browns have stopped themselves in several ways. But I'm not sitting here going to give it up to Joe Burrow and just say how great he is. What I'm going to tell you is he has an incredible connection with Jamar Chase. But Mixon is going to get injured, as sure as I'm sitting here. And I told you all that Lowry Markkinen had a career of big injuries for the Cavaliers, and now he's gone. He's gone for upwards of 6 weeks with a high ankle sprain. This is what happens when players are injury prone. Mixon, for the last couple of years, hasn't been able to play healthy. And they got nobody behind him. If something happens to him, they got nothing. And they got an offensive line that got their quarterback killed against a team that they barely beat because they let the defensive line beat him 9 times they sacked him. And they got a head coach there in Zach Taylor who can't seem to get out of close games, which is the kiss of death. And it's what I tell you about Tannehill in Miami. When you're 8-8, flip a coin. And I told you that the Browns were in too many close games in their 12-5 season. They got away with it, but you don't keep getting away with it. The teams who continue through deep into the playoffs don't have that many close games. They just don't. They're ahead most of the time. They take it to people.
As far as the Bengals situation, I think it's a real indictment on their front office and ownership, because it's not that you haven't had options to go out there and get a real number 2 running back. Like, there are plenty of options. James Conner went to Arizona on like a $1 million deal and is producing for them, or did produce for them this past season. It's like, you want to spend money on your defense and pay out these big dollars, but why not throw 1-2 mil at a running back who's capable? You know?
Well, you know, and then you get this in the press, you know. Baker Mayfield knows where the quarterback bar is now set to get to the Super Bowl. And that is Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. But look, it's the most important position on the field, and I keep saying that we could be a lot worse than where we are if we get rid of the guy who got us to the playoffs. We could take a real dump. And then it would be easy for Cincinnati to beat us twice a year, right? Then we would be helping them become a more prolific young football team. But my point is, nothing to say that the Cincinnati Bengals will show up next year with the swag that Joe Burrow claims that they all have. It's all well and good to do this kind of dance with the white man's overbite, with a cigar, and saying to the press, you know, we expect to win, and, you know, this is the way it's going to be from now on. It's like, you don't know that. Nobody knows that. And it's not one person. It's not a connection between a quarterback and a receiver. There isn't. I mean, can you imagine how great Jamar Chase would be and T. Higgins would be if they had an offensive line that could keep the quarterback on his feet for any length of time? But the guy's going to get hurt. I said it about Lamar Jackson too. And everyone's like, you know what you're talking about. It's like, he misses the last 5 games of the year. And who knows? We'll never know why.
And the Bengals continue to fail drafting offensive linemen. Michael Jordan, Billy Price, they just drafted Jackson Carman. All failures. And yeah, Carman's still playing, so I guess the jury's still out on him. But I've never been a fan of him, and it doesn't look good. So, I mean, you got to be able to evaluate the position. So I don't know if that means bring in a better offensive line coach. I don't know if it means better scouting, but it's a must for them if they want to sustain whatever success they can have.
I can tell you something else. The Cincinnati Bengals give up a ton of yardage on the ground. Why do you beat them up so easily? It wasn't that Baker went off and threw for 420 yards. They can't stop the run. And they still can't. And I know what they're going to say. Well, Larry Ogunjobi. It's like, I watched Ogunjobi in Cleveland for years. Nice player. But the fact of the matter is, the only person who didn't realize the liability was Vrabel. The coach who in his damn press conference after the game said, I can't put this on one person. He was standing up for Ryan Tannehill, his puppet. I can't lay this at the feet of one person. And he is the quarterback and I am the head coach. And then he says in his presser, which I will continue to be. And it's like, I'm sure I'm not going to fire you now, but you have no control over that. You dumb big ass. You're stupid. He's another one of these guys who he wants to turn everything into a 1917 game. That's just what he is. He doesn't have a concept of offense.
By the way, how about... Go ahead.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, how about Sean Payton? That seems like that might be legit that he's gone.
What?
Yeah.
Say
You heard
again?
about that?
Yeah, Sean Payton. Yeah.
The Saints coach. They asked him about returning, and he's I don't know what he said. He's unsure or whatever. And then it came out that the ownership said the same thing. We have no idea. So it seems like he could be on the move.
Yeah. But I mean, to me, Vrabel is Mike Tomlin kind of coach. But they don't get to where they're going. They will get you what they get you, but there isn't an offensive scheme in their brain. And it's, again, a perfect example of a team that has the best record. They had the home field advantage, everything going for them, and they threw it away. And literally, they start out the game, we're going to go play action and let Tannehill throw an interception. I mean, you get behind in a game, you're not even testing the resolve against the run in the week that your big back has come back. I just don't understand. But there's a lot of things in the coaching world I don't understand. The one thing I can tell you is the reason that Buffalo and Kansas City are so far head and shoulders above is because they have coaches who get it. It looked like, maybe somebody's figured out the Kansas City Chiefs. Well, Andy Reid did something about that with his guy, didn't he? With the enemy, they did something about that because after that patch where things weren't going well, somebody took a long, hard look at the playbook and did something. It just didn't happen by snapping their fingers. They took a long, hard look, and instead of saying that in the press conference, well, that's on me. You don't hear Andy Reid, and that's on me. You don't hear that. By the end of the year, you look how good they are, and it's like, okay, so for every reaction, there is a counter reaction. So Kansas City got back on top because they have so much offensive talent, and they have a coach who's willing to make changes to make his team better. You have guys like Vrabel and Stefanski who will make no changes. They will not let their quarterbacks change the plays at the line of scrimmage like Josh Allen is allowed to do, like Patrick Mahomes is allowed to do.
And by
Won't let
changing
it happen.
plays, we also mean changing the formation.
Yeah.
Not just changing we're just going to change this blocking scheme or we're going to run to the left instead of the right. No, they can actually change the damn look at the offense and move the defense around.
Well, and they're trusted to point out defensive schemes and defensive formations. I'm talking about other quarterbacks.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Baker Mayfield and you look at how good he was out of the shotgun, and then, so this system, he has to play action, right? Because he's got a big running game. And it has definitely fucked him up. It's not what he... Now, my opinion of all these things are you have to have balances of things, and you can't just be one-dimensional. But if you know that the quarterback that you have has certain skills, you have to accentuate those skills. And if you don't, then you're not going to win consistently. And a lot of the quarterbacks who are really, and maybe it's because Baker can't do it. All right. And I don't even want to guess about that, because once he's shut down and isn't allowed, and the same thing could be said about freelancing patterns. Everyone's talking about OBJ, and we'll talk about that, because they love to pile on their own pain, and that will get a lot of reaction on Twitter as well. It isn't that he is breaking loose 80-yard gains. It's that he is one-on-one against people. And when it came down to winning time, it wasn't old number 3 breaking down the field wide open, was it? Fuck no. He's not a number 1. He never was a number 1 from the time he came to Cleveland. He was coming off a severe injury, for Christ's sake. And all he was doing was crying about his shoulder as well, both shoulders. That he could pop them out of place, both of them. It was Cup who got it done when it needed to get done. And it's great having him as a number 2/3. He still is great keeping his feet in bounds. That's really impressive to see what he's skilled. He's a skilled receiver. And he's happy there. He got himself on TMZ video, man, drinking wine and dancing in a nightclub after the win. Oh yeah, he's in his element. God bless him. Let him be happy. That wasn't going to work in Cleveland, and he insisted on creating routes himself, and it really ruined things for the team, because he wasn't where he was supposed to be. And we'll bring Bronk into the proceedings. Hi, Bronk.
I'm just here to hear the Peter Alice play of the weekend.
Oh my God! How could I even?
From.
Well, there's only one. There is to me only one. Let's go ahead. We'll get the.
There can be only one.
Oh, the game's on the line, and there's 35 seconds. The team has no timeouts, and I think it's time we started blitzing. Oh, no, you can't be serious. Stafford's going to pee his pants back to throw. He's wide open down the field. Cooper Kupp down on the field, and oh my goodness, they're going to get off. and yeah, it was like everything that Mike McCarthy was trying to do, but with far less time, and by faking out the umpire.
By the way, the Giants are expected, or at least he's in the options or finals for the Giants job. Dan Quinn. I don't know why the Cowboys wouldn't fire Mike McCarthy and make him the head coach. I think he was in a bad situation in Atlanta. Look what he's done with the Cowboys defense. They were atrocious last year. Why not hire him as the head coach? To me, he's more stable.
Because
Jerry Jones wants a puppet at head coach. That's all he wants.
Well, he's not serious now, is he? And real coaches are motivators, John. And I will say it over and over again. These players are skilled, but you got to control them. But you can't control them with negative feedback, swatting them on the wrists, constant negative reinforcement. You can't do it. They're grown men. They're making millions of dollars in many cases. These are people who want the game to still have aspects of it that's a game. And the pressure that comes with the organization, ever been in a Super Bowl, you can't let that get to your players. You have to be able to communicate with them to get a swagger about them. That's why I believe that Joe Burrow's got the swagger. I just don't think that Zach does. Okay? I don't see that he's like, I will say this, the Rams, they ran a quarterback draw, and I thought, oh my God, it's Stefanski. Stefanski got a hold of the playbook.
I thought
With
for
Big
sure
Mike.
that game was going to overtime and Tom Brady was going to win.
I mean, everybody thought that.
It was
That was
the
just so
classic.
shady. That was just so shady, though. How is one of the best kickers in the league magically short from 47?
2
It was the
yards short,
classic-
yeah.
It was the
How?
classic professional wrestling double swerve.
Mm-hmm. I think he was told to miss that kick.
I mean,
Maybe.
it seems unbelievable that he couldn't get it there. I mean, we're watching people just banging things through from 54.
Yeah,
And this guy, but this guy never had a problem kicking it 47 yards.
No, he wasn't he the Pro Bowl kicker this year for the NFC?
And he didn't, and it didn't look to me, he didn't mishit the ball.
No.
I mean, the whole thing. But why? And Arians pulled a classic Buddy Ryan. He pulled the most stupid time. What was he hoping to accomplish? They looked at the line of scrimmage and they could see it was going to be an all-out blitz. And at that point, you don't have any timeouts. You're going to get rid of the ball. It'll stop the clock. But there's no time left. For all practical purposes and intents, they looked like they were content running the clock out. And had they run the clock out, I think we're all convinced that Brady would have won the game.
Oh, yeah.
Based on what had preceded all of that. Because they looked scared shitless. The goddamn Rams, I mean, what, snapping a ball right, buzzing it by the quarterback's head? I mean, it's like, did you see, this ball's just whipping by the guy's head. I mean, everything that they could do to hand the game to Tom Brady, of all people,
Oh, yeah.
you knew, just like with Mahomes. It was like, well, coin toss, ball game, it's done.
No.
You knew it. But why would they blitz all out? And you know what Arians' explanation was?
What?
Oh, this is really a gem. There was confusion. Not everybody blitzed like they were supposed to.
Huh?
That's right. Not only was it a horrible call that his own players couldn't believe that got thrown out there from the defensive coordinator and was totally approved by the Aryan race. This guy said if guys were supposed to all be coming, it was supposed to all be coming. They were in 3 wide out, 3 defensive back mode.
And poor
All
Winfield
3
got
receivers were one-on-one. And the guys who didn't blitz didn't know what they were supposed to do or just looked at it like, you got to be kidding me. And Arians, who already has been fined by the NFL for really hammering one of his players, slapping him in the helmet, which
Yeah,
is
remember that.
not real good, overly emotional. Why would you choose to send the dogs of hell at Stafford when the only hope they had to get to where they were going was to throw the ball up in the air like that? It just amazed me. And nobody's talking about it. It's almost like they have this Brady bubble around them. And then they can do no wrong when Tom Brady is there. And this wasn't Tom Brady's fault. Tom Brady has to be asking himself the same question. Hey, Giselle, what in the fuck's wrong with the head coach? Bruce Arians wouldn't be a winner if it weren't for Tom Brady. Yeah.
This year has seen some absolutely shocking game day coaching by so many coaches this year on the NFL. And, it's been really bad. I mean, every week there's been things that you and I would not do in a game that these coaches are doing. And yesterday was just a prime example of it. And if Zach Taylor, God love him, makes it to the Super Bowl, he has got to be the worst game day coach I've ever seen make it there. What is this league coming to? The coaching is not keeping up with the talent of the players.
No.
They're not. There's a disconnect there. The
And I think that's going to be the new thing. You're going to have great quarterbacks. That's going to be the thing. But you need a coach who has good coordinators and who are. And the answer, Radu, is that it wasn't just a corner blitz. It was a full-scale blitz. They were bringing the house so that safeties had to cover wide receivers. And of course, Cooper Kupp just ran right past him. It made no sense. Could you imagine, because we're Cleveland fans, if lined up Ronnie Harrison against Jamar Chase on the critical moment of the game? No, I mean, this is what I'm talking about. I mean, it's like, it would just be bypassed. I mean, nobody would even consider that rational.
That poor little Antoine Winfield Jr.
Yeah.
Absolutely burned.
Well, but it was suicidal. That's not what he's supposed to do.
Yeah, that's not Winfield's job.
Yeah, I just, it is amazing. And I feel the same exact way you do, Peter. The Bengals have had a good year. And I have nothing against them. Burrow, I think it's wonderful that a team that takes shit and eats shit regularly, gets their day in the sun. I am not convinced that there is any single team in the AFC North that is a lock. The Ravens don't think so. They fired their defensive coordinator.
Old Wink Martindale.
Yeah, so they don't feel they are. The Browns certainly aren't. And the Steelers?
It's tragic. Man.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens to Najee Harris. I mean, you know who Najee Harris is?
Who is Najee Harris?
Trent Richardson. And look.
You came out of college hurt.
Wow.
Here's the thing. He didn't average many yards per carry. You remember Trent was, had 950 yards in his rookie season. Do you remember?
He did.
It took him a lot of carries, and he caught balls out of the backfield too, just like Najee.
Maybe they can trade him to the Colts for a first-round pick.
That's right. That's right. But the look of a running back in the NFL is unmistakable. And Nick Chubb, when he came to Cleveland, it was like, holy shit. How did this guy slip down that far? This guy's fantastic. And every year since, he's been. From his rookie year on, at no time does Najee Harris look like Nick Chubb. I mean, come on. And he doesn't look like Jerome Bettis either. So they know they're not. So the AFC North is like completely wide open. And the Bengals are the team who are the ascenders, who are trying to convince themselves with swag that they are the future owners of the division. And time will tell what the decisions that their front office makes, that their head coach makes, the health of their quarterback based on them patching up the holes that are in that offensive line, being able to stop the run. I mean, that's going to be what happens.
And that's what I said to you on Twitter. It's scary that they just in a year, and I know there's been so much craziness, but the quick turnaround, if they can get some of these things right, I mean, a lot of things depend on health and everything, like you said, but if they make a couple right decisions, they could be in a very, very good spot.
No doubt. I mean, and we could say the same thing. I mean, the thing I don't get about all the negativity is that the Browns drafted for defense. And I kind of like Denzel Ward. I kind of like Greg Newsome. I kind of like JOK. I think they did what they needed to do. The thing is that you cannot accomplish everything in one draft. And all that will happen to Cincinnati is you're saying they need an offensive line and they need a defensive line. All right, that's what they need. And they're going to need a backup running back because Mixon's not going to make it through 17 games next year.
And probably a backup quarterback too.
Yep. How are you going to get all that and get the right guys in one draft? And then what happens to you is you end up with a bunch of injuries and all your offensive linemen get hurt. And the next thing you know, you're bringing Blake Hance to start the game. Injuries don't miss teams, and when they hit, they seem to hit in the way that hurts you the most. There's still a lot of holes that the Bengals have to fill, just as the Browns do, just as the Steelers do, and just as the Ravens do. The Ravens will give a pass because their entire secondary got wiped out and their running backs got wiped out. So they'll be, I still think they're the better of the teams in the AFC North.
And
until I'm proven wrong. Yeah, go ahead.
Speaking of the Steelers, I saw a report out yesterday, and I don't know how true it is, but apparently they are feeling good about going into next season with Dwayne Haskins and Mason Rudolph competing for the starting job.
Well, then they're tanking for picks.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's, but again,
But
that's their
3-14
problem.
written all over it.
And
And
they've
it could
had
be
a
smoke screen too.
Yeah, they've had a great quarterback there for years and years and years, and now we're going back to Bubby Brister time, okay, to Mark Malone time. That's all well and good for me. I don't want the Cleveland Browns to do that. I don't want to go back to Deshaun Kaiser days. All right, I don't want that. Johnny Manziel days. I don't want that. I mean, if we're going to make a change at quarterback, you let the guy play out his final year and you figure out what it is you got to do to get who it is you want. But to prematurely jettison somebody, what a mistake that would be. Just, what a
still
mistake.
think Baker's going to get franchise tagged.
Well, I mean, and, but then will be hostility between the player and the organization.
Absolutely.
I'm not sure that ever works either.
No, it doesn't, but that's what's probably going to happen.
Well,
not a lot of people think that, but that's what
Before I get out of here today, the Cavaliers are on in 2 minutes. They're playing the Knicks in Cleveland. As I said earlier in the show, Lowry Markkanen gone for around 6 weeks with a high ankle sprain. It's forcing us to start Dean Wade. These are the times that try men's souls. Young teams like the Cavaliers, who are young, immature physically, and have been a fun team to watch. They were terrible against the Thunder in their last game. They managed to win, but really only because the Thunder manages to lose because they don't have anybody on the court. But you can see that the Cavaliers are wearing down. The ball's not moving like it has been. It's slowing down. We're giving up 2 second and third chances. We're not defensive rebounding the way that we need to. And for these young players, guys like Okoro, who had COVID, Darius Garland, who's got a hurt back, these players need a rest, man. The All-Star break is coming at a good time for these guys. And the Knicks are 1 game below 500, but looking at what they can put on the floor, it's going to be a load for the Cavaliers because Mitchell Robinson is back for them. And it's going to be interesting to see how the Cavaliers come out and play and whether they can get that brisk ball movement again or because now they're just kind of walking it up the floor and that's not good. So we'll see. That's it. It's the top of the hour and I'm out of here. Bronk, thanks. T-Tosh, thanks. Derek, thanks. Brian and Tony, thank you. And thanks everybody for tuning into this edition of Moohead Radio. Back again on Friday, and we'll have more specific what the Browns should do talk, and maybe some things will become clearer in the great scheme of things, and we'll be picking games as well. Thanks a lot, and until next time, go Cavs, and hasta la vista, Pasture Heads. Good night.
Enjoy the replay, King.
Boo.
Bye-bye now.